Recently, I was at a professional speaking association event, and I was struck by how all of the speakers used these amazing stories to illustrate their point. And it got me thinking, do professional speakers just lead really exciting lives? Is everything they do so interesting that they are inundated with these wonderful stories that they can use to illustrate their point? No, probably not. So, do they just have better memories than us? Do they remember the exciting things that happen to them better than the rest of us? No, probably not. Which means we can draw only one conclusion. They must write down the things that happen to them. Yes, they must record these interesting things that happen to them because they know the value of putting them in their speeches. And that is my first tip for you, ladies and gentlemen. When something interesting happens to you, write it down and use it in a speech later. Because as civic dignitaries, even just as counsellors, you're out there in the community. Interesting things are happening to you. Make a note of those things and make sure you use them later to illustrate points in your speeches. That's tip number one. Record the interesting things that happen to you. And you might be wondering, well, Duncan, what is the advantage of using all of these wonderful stories that I collect throughout my life? Well, the advantage is clear. Stories help you to illustrate points, yes. But stories go so much further than that. Stories can add emotional impact to what you say. So a good story can make you laugh. A good story can make you cry. A good story can inspire you. A good story can motivate you. Stories add emotional impact to your speaking. So that's what you need to do. When you collect a good story, you've got to think about how you can use it to create an emotional impact in your speech. Yes, you need a logical argument. Yes, you need a clearly thought out logical argument. But if you don't have emotional impact, you won't ever make a connection to people. So that's tip number 2. Always use stories to create an emotional impact. Now, that is nowhere more true than when you are talking about charitable fundraising. So if you are doing any kind of charitable fundraising, you need a signature story about your charity. You need a great story that illustrates the wonderful impact your charity has on people. And you need to be able to drop it into speeches whenever you're talking about your story. I worked with a dignitary a few years ago, and they had a fantastic story about the good work that their charity had done. And they used it again and again and again. I heard it many times, yet it still had an emotional impact on me because it was a great story. If you can get something like that, you can keep using it. And I can guarantee you, it'll add thousands to the amount that you raise. A good story is worth its weight in money. So that's my third tip. If you haven't already got a signature story about the charities that you're fundraising for, go out and get one. That's what you should do this afternoon. You should get a great story to illustrate how brilliant your charities are. So those are 3 things that you can do, 3 ways that you can use stories in your speeches that will improve your speaking. So when something interesting happens, record it. Make sure you use it to create emotional impact. And finally, if you haven't got a great charity story, that's what you're doing this afternoon. Now, I love talking about public speaking, and I love helping counsellors, civic dignitaries, and community leaders become better speakers. And to that end, I'm putting together a webinar to help you become a better speaker. If you'd like to join me on that webinar, it's completely free. If you'd like to join me, and you're on my website, there should be a sign-up form just down there below. Pop your email address in there. I'll send you all the details of my free webinar series. One of those will be about better speaking, but we might be able to help you in other ways as well. If you're on YouTube, there's a link down there. Click on the link, give me your email address. I'll get back to you. Thanks very much for listening. My name's Duncan Bascaram Brown. I'm the Civic Coach. Good night.